Thanks for coming to J&N Travels podcast with your hosts, John and Nancy.
Hi.
We will discuss everything travel, including cruising, Disney World, other general travel, snowbirding tips, trivia, and other fun things. Thank you for joining us for podcast number 9. Each podcast contains 2 segments with travel information. We also have Nancy's Trivia, Nancy's Travel Fun Facts, and Snowbird Tips. We have been getting some questions emailed to us and we'll answer one question on each podcast. If interested in sending us a question or making a comment, email us at j&ntravels@yahoo.com. Please check out our J&N Travels Facebook page, our J&N Travels merchandise store, our J&N Travels YouTube channel, and visit our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Google, Amazon, and Apple. Our information for everything is listed below. We like to start off each podcast with Nancy's Trivia. Nancy will give you the trivia questions and she will give you the answers at the end of the podcast. Thank you for joining us. So Nancy, we like to start out every show with a little bit of fun trivia.
Yeah.
And Nancy likes to give you 3 of her trivia questions. So she'll give the questions now and the answers at the end of our podcast.
Yes, these are general travel trivia questions. The first one is, what is the most spoken language in the world?
What is the most spoken language in the world? Okay.
Second one is, how much land does Disney World comprise?
How much land does Disney World comprise? Okay.
And the third one, outside of the U.S., what is the busiest cruise port by passenger numbers?
What is the busiest cruise port outside the U.S. by passenger numbers?
Right.
Okay, we'll be looking forward to those answers,
All
Nancy.
right.
For our first segment today, we have an interview with our friend Maury, who took a trip over to Ireland and will share the details with us. Thank you very much, Maury. So, Nancy, we're very lucky today to have a friend of ours, Maury, who just got back from Ireland.
Yes, that's great. That's fantastic.
And he's going to share his trip with us, which would be great. For anyone out there that's thinking of going to Ireland, you might want to listen to this. So thanks for coming in, Maury.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here and share my journey through the Emerald Isle.
The little bit I've heard so far sounded like a wonderful trip. But maybe you could start off, Maury, by telling us about your journey to Ireland and could provide an overview of the route that you took to get to Ireland.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did kind of a tight loop of Ireland. Didn't do the whole island, but we hit some really significant high points. We started our journey in Dublin. I arrived early in the morning on a direct flight out of Hartford. Got some direct flights now out of this small airport, which is great. A quick flight, only about a 2-movie flight. And I got to the city really before it had woken up. So it was very quiet as I arrived. And my partner had already been in the city. She had come in from Scotland the day before. So I was able to have the luxury of meeting up.
Maury, how long a flight was that?
I think it's about a 5.5-hour flight, 6 hours, somewhere in there.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fairly short.
It goes really quickly when it's direct.
Yeah, very nice.
So once I arrived, I went to our hotel. It was the Clayton Hotel Ballbridge, which was a converted boarding school. Charming history to it. But got in a nap and really had a full day on that first day that I arrived to play tourist, which was nice. It's unusual to have a full day once you get to someplace.
That's
so
for sure.
Yeah, so we were able to jump right into tourist mode, and we did all the sites that we could walk to easily from the hotel. That was Trinity University, the riverfront area, the sort of the entertainment zones where some of the cathedrals were and some of the shops and restaurants. So we got a lot in that first day. We enjoyed Trinity University and just enjoyed kind of soaking up being in a new country. But there isn't a lot in Dublin right downtown to see on the tourist side. It's a very functional city, but it's not. There aren't a ton of sights. So the second day we actually took their light rail train outside the city and went up to a fishing village called Howth. Very pretty. It's on the ocean. You arrive, you're immediately in a little strip of restaurants and shops. And we got caught in a major rainstorm. So that was our introduction to Irish rain, which seemed to happen pretty frequently as we were there. So the main attraction, it's a very small village, but the main attraction here is that you can do a nice hiking loop around kind of the peninsula. Very pretty loop. You get close to the birds, you get close to overlooks of the, even though you're on top of a cliff, kind of overlooks to the ocean. Very pretty spot, and a nice, you can make the hike as long as you want. It's actually pretty extensive.
How long did you hike for?
Yeah, we went for a couple hours. We waited out the rainstorm at lunch, and then we were able to get the rest of the afternoon was all clear. So we essentially went for a couple of hours and got in some good sights there.
Are they good paths to walk on?
They're kind of narrow paths. Some of them are pretty close to the edge. There's quite a few people on these paths, so and dogs and families that arrive in certain spots. So it was a pretty busy hiking trail. And then after the day in Howth, we'd kind of gotten our feel for the capital city, and we were eager to get out and see some of the other cities and villages that we'd heard so much about. We've been hanging out in Irish clubs lately, doing a lot of set dancing, and we really, yeah, it's like square dancing, but it's to Irish music. It's specific dances with 4 couples. And it seems like everyone we've met lately has really a fond attraction to their hometown in Ireland. For such a small country, people have very strong identities to their local villages. So it was really fun to get over there and kind of see some of these smaller cities. So the next stop was Galway. We headed over to Galway, which is the west coast, directly west of Dublin. It's I think the second or third largest city next to Dublin. So I think it's either Cork or Galway is next largest. But Galway's charming town, has a lot of very pedestrian-friendly shops and restaurants in the core. We did touristy things, visited the city museum, historic wall that they have there. That was part of the shipping wharf, and I even spied what I believe was an authentic Banksy mural on one of the walls in towns. Are either of you familiar with Banksy?
No.
I've heard the name, but not really familiar.
Yeah. So very interesting character. He's a UK-based graffiti artist, an activist. I think he's directed some films as well. But the real mystery about him is his identity is actually unconfirmed. So no one, he hasn't publicly disclosed who he is. And this gives them a way to kind of travel around and leave these tags, these graffiti marks in various places and primarily around Europe. But he's come to America. He did a tour through here, leaving tags in different cities and other places as well. But his graffiti always has social commentary or political activism tied to it. So it's very, very interesting. It was neat to see one of his pieces. At least I think I can't confirm that it's one of his pieces because it's not signed or anything. But the city has covered up everything around the mural, so I'm pretty sure it's one of his that they're trying to preserve.
Oh, neat.
Very good.
So the time we were there, this was like late June. It was unseasonably hot, and it was hot everywhere, and including in Galway. So we were actually a short walk from a sandy beach, and we figured, let's go to the beach. So we did take the opportunity while we're in Galway to walk down to the beach, which would have been the northern Atlantic Ocean, and take a swim there. And what's interesting is Galway is about the same latitude as Newfoundland, Canada. So it's further north than Nova Scotia. Or on the other side of the country, it would be the same latitude as the southern part of the Aleutian Islands in Alaska, which it's kind of odd kind of thinking about Ireland as being that far north, but it is pretty far north.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't think of Ireland as beaches for some reason. Whenever I picture
No,
Ireland,
I
I
don't
think
think
of
of
beaches.
Ireland. I just think of, cliffs and,
Right, castles, stuff like that.
castles. Yeah, lots of greenery, lots of
Yeah.
land.
And the beach was very nice. It was a sandy beach. It was very clean. Water was clean.
And they don't charge for the beach at all?
Beaches are free there?
Yeah, are the beaches free, or do you have to pay?
You just park on the street. It wasn't, like you said, the season is probably so short there that it's not worth making an industry out of it, like it is here. So I think you just park on the street and go. And it's pretty close to the downtown of the city. So what is remarkable, because the water was, I was expecting it to be too cold to get into, and I could walk right in. I don't know what the true water temperature was, but it felt like maybe about the equivalent of swimming in the Jersey Shore. So that was pretty interesting.
So how far would that be into the beach season? Would it be at the beginning of the beach season, the end of it?
I think they just take advantage of hot days when they have it. I think it was warmer than usual, so it was probably the beginning of the season for them. Wasn't very crowded. It's not a common thing to do there, but.
And the beaches you said was sandy. Again, I picture rocks everywhere.
Yeah, I don't picture sandy.
No, they have a lot of cliffs, and I don't know if there's some man-made aspect to this particular beach or not, but it was a sandy beach. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Did you happen to mention the name of the beach? Did you know the name of it? Or
it's right in Galway. I don't know the name offhand. I think it might have been North Beach or something like that. So after Galway, we visited the Cliffs of Moher, which are really a stunning natural feature. They're a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which means they recognize for their unique natural characteristics. And they are just a stunning row of cliffs that plunge into the Atlantic Ocean, located in Clare County. We stayed a night in the town of Doolin, which is the main town. Charming little town, and we walked a lot. Yeah, I know. Isn't that a great name? And we wore a couple layers off of our shoes that day, so everything was about 2 kilometers away. So the B&B we stayed in, lovely B&B called the Arran View County House. Was 2 kilometers from the center of town. That was 2 kilometers from the boat, which was 2 kilometers from the start of the cliff walk. So it was all kind of spread out a little bit. But the boat we took first under the cliffs. I wouldn't really recommend taking the boat. It was a very fast boat ride. You didn't get very close to the cliffs. You really couldn't appreciate it very well from that vantage point. But after we did
Maury, was that because of safety reasons why they do that, or just a quick way out of it?
I think they were trying to move as many tourists as they could through their boat rides. So we were pretty packed in, not a lot of room to move around on these boats, and they zipped us out.
Did they tell you any interesting? Did they narrate any interesting?
Yeah, that's what was interesting. They had a pre-recorded message that they played, so it felt a little impersonal. And it's a good question, because there were supposed to be puffins actually here.
Oh, really?
And we were hoping we'd see a puffin, or maybe the boat would try to find a puffin for us. But it was moving so fast that it's moving so fast that it would have scared any puffins away.
Oh gosh! Did they tell you that a Harry Potter scene was filmed there? Did they mention that?
Oh no! Oh, they might have mentioned that, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember that scene, but
yeah, I don't know what book it was.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's a good point. Wherever we went in Ireland, they were very proud of movies that had focused on certain areas of Ireland. So oftentimes we get into a town or something like the Cliffs, and they would have posters up for the movies, and it meant a lot to them whenever they were used as a set.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. The best way to really appreciate the cliffs, though, anyone going to the cliffs, is to leave a lot of time and walk along the top. The top is absolutely beautiful. The path is flat and it's easy to walk. You can get really close and not feel like you're going to fall in because they have these nice berms that they've kind of built up with the earth. So it's kind
nice.
of
Very
like
nice.
a 4-foot berm, so you don't feel like you're gonna ever just fall right off. It's really nice. You can see the dramatic landscape from above. You can see a lot of the birds too from above. We didn't see any puffins, but
I'll ask you that.
I would have loved to see a puffin.
we were looking.
Yeah. I do have a beautiful puffin picture in my living room.
Yes. All right, so from Doolin, then next stop was the city of Cork. So we arrived in Cork. We just spent one night in Doolin, then we went to Cork, and there happened to be an arts and culture festival that was taking place. So it added a nice little extra vibe to the city.
Yeah.
And we were able to see things like there was an acrobatic dance performance in the park. Think of like a Cirque du Soleil without the special effects.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun. They were doing modern dance to traditional Irish music, and adding in the acrobatic element. There were some other dance performances as in that park as well that we took in. So it was nice.
Were there a lot of costumes, bright costumes, and different things like that?
There were, the arts program had some unusual costumes. There was some dancers with some, like, they made brains on their head.
They made what on their head?
It was actually a great idea for a Halloween costume. I think it was just nylon stockings that they painted pink and wrapped around to look like brains.
That's a great idea.
That's very creative.
So I may have to do that one of these years.
That's right.
So that was Cork. Did you go to the Blarney?
So that was a lot of fun.
You didn't kiss the Blarney Stone there?
No Blarney Stone. No, we didn't get to that area. That was, I think, just outside of Cork.
Okay. Oh, that's outside of Cork. Okay.
So we didn't get there. So, but we did check out the local university, the art museums, all very nice, quality, sort of cultural take-ins there. And we went to the Cork City Gaol, which is the word for prison. So it's an old prison, and it's served multiple purposes over the years. It was a radio station at one point and some other hospital, I think, at one point. But they did a nice job of preserving the prison and telling the story of the prisoners. So they would kind of highlight dozen or so former inmates and kind of what their stories were. You know, some were jailed just for stealing a piece of bread to live on.
Wow.
And it was common to send prisoners from here off to Tasmania. So that was
really
kind of some of the darker stories of this prison. It is interesting. It's well done, and they preserved a lot of sort of that history in there. Probably the one of the big highlights of Cork for me was the scenic boat ride we took out of downtown Cork on the edge of kind of the downtown as it hits the River Lee. And it was a harbor cruise, went down the River Lee, and very informative, a lot of interpretation from the guide. And she pointed out a lot of great things, but it turned around as the river opens up at a town called Cobh, C-O-B-H. And Cobh has a very scenic, very pretty town, but it's notorious for being the final departure point of the Titanic.
Really?
So the last spot where it picked up passengers or let off passengers before, well, you know. So it was a little interesting story there. They have a lot of Titanic. There's a Titanic museum, and there's a lot of just interesting sort of like side stories about this town. That's a little bit mysterious as well. Some lore.
Maury, I'd love to compare the Titanic Museum over there to the ones. There's so many Titanic museums in the U.S.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting to see the different takes from
Yeah.
two different countries on the
Yeah.
same event.
Yeah, it really right. And even in Ireland, because I think the Titanic stopped in 3 cities in Ireland, Cobh being the last, but I think the first might have been Belfast, and there's a museum there where it's very high tech and sort of multi-visual. We didn't go to it; we weren't in Belfast, but from what I read, it's a whole different take on it, kind of multimedia as opposed to sort of artifacts. So yeah, so Cork was very nice. We left Cork, and the last stop we made was in the medieval town of Kilkenny. We had an extra day and ended up actually spending 2 days here and not going back to Dublin. We just enjoyed it so much. It was a medieval town, had a castle on a river, so it's Ireland. Kind of a perfect picture of Ireland in one place. Beautiful river walk trail. There's just a lot of shops and galleries. Yeah, I think it was kind of a nice finish to a loop through Ireland. I highly recommend Kilkenny on a final
Maury,
stop.
I've got a question for you. Did you rent the car? I mean, how did you get to all these places? Seems like a lot of ground you covered.
Yeah, and that's a great question. So, as environmentally conscious travelers, we're always trying to find ways of kind of reducing our carbon footprint and reduce our waste when we travel. So I know that's hard to do because just getting someplace on an airplane is very impactful. But what we decided to do is travel all with public transit at this trip. So we used trains, and a mix of trains and buses and boats, I guess, if you want to get technical. So it was actually a really nice way to travel. None of the stress associated with a rental car or driving on the opposite side, the left side of the road. Not having to worry about parking or any returning it with a full tank or any of those stresses that come with a rental car. So we lose a little bit of time because we have to walk to a station as opposed to just jump in our car. But it also allowed us to see a lot of the countryside that we wouldn't see from the roads. The trains cut through pastures and through over rivers and along the ocean in ways that the roads don't necessarily go. So that was a lot of fun seeing the country that way.
Yeah, it was a nice trade-off, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have pros and cons with it. They were all short. Ireland's such a small geographic area that none of the train rides were more than 2 hours trip. So very kind of easy. I'd say the only thing I really felt that I missed being on trains and buses was going through little towns and you'd see a little shop that, oh gosh, I'd like to stop in there, or you see a castle and you'd like to stop and spend 20 minutes there. So that's the one thing that you lose. But I think all in all, it was much more pleasant way to travel than renting a car.
Yeah, you can't do everything.
No.
I mean, that's the part. Well, the big thing with you, Maury, was first of all, the length of the whole time that you two spent together traveling the island was how many days?
I think about 10 days.
Now, if I remember from your past trips, you guys pack pretty lightly. How do you pack for a trip like that? If you're jumping from train to boat to I don't know, flapping your wings, I mean, you must have to have very little.
Yeah. I know. Well, we just use a carry-on. I could do 3 days or 3 weeks or 3 months in a carry-on. Just means you have to wash things more often. But 10 days is pretty easy to do in a carry-on. So the biggest problem is actually the footwear. That's the hardest part about packing small. Getting enough versatile, 1 or 2 pairs of versatile footwear that can address everything. But other than that, pretty easy to pack light and tight. My goal is to get to just a backpack. I haven't gotten there yet, but that'll be next, to shrink it down.
Have you ever gotten to a point where you looked and all your clothes stunk and were dirty and you had to go out and either buy something to wear, or you just didn't have a laundromat available?
Well,
Any jam
so
like
not
that?
necessarily because they stink and they're dirty, because I just, whenever I have a chance, I do some hand washing in the sink, put it up and let it dry, and it's ready to go in a day. But sometimes there's just an item that I don't have that I wanted. Maybe it's cold and I didn't pack any cold or something like that, or a bathing suit and I forgot a bathing suit. So in that case, yeah, maybe sometimes pick up it's a good excuse though. I've actually gotten to, I try to underpack my shoes and then buy some shoes when I'm over there, because it's always kind of cool to get footwear from another place.
Yeah.
You don't leave them behind though, right? It's not
Yes,
temporary
no.
fit. So you got to find room for them coming home.
Yeah. What are they known for their quality leather goods, or what are they known for?
They're known for wool. Wool's the big product in
Wool,
Ireland.
that's
So
it.
a lot of wool sweaters, a lot of wool socks, other bits of wool. That's kind of their primary product, that you can't find other places. It's very,
Yeah.
high quality wool and high quality knitting.
Did you find that I've always wanted to travel long distance on a train? Did you find that was your favorite form of transportation over there?
Yeah, well, boat maybe would be the favorite, just because boat's a different experience. But yeah, I think train over bus for sure is so pleasant, and it goes. The thing about trains, most of the European cities, the train comes right into the downtown, so you step off and you're in a vibrant part of the city. Whereas if you're driving, and sometimes buses are more on the periphery, if you're driving, it takes you a while to kind of get to that downtown area, or to find it sometimes.
Right. Do they have their version of Uber over there to get you around the city, or do you have to wait
They
for buses
do.
for that?
They do have Uber, but they also have a local. I can't remember the name of it. I installed the app but never used it. But they do have their own version of Uber as well.
What was the other question? You had a question on the food.
Well, I was just going to ask him about that. Yeah, I was thinking of that. The Irish have a reputation for serving a fresh
Guinness,
fresh
right?
Guinness and cozy pubs. Did you experience this part of Ireland? I was just thinking about asking him about how the beer tasted.
Or the food in
Yeah.
general. But yeah.
Oh yes, yes. Guinness is everywhere. I don't think you can find a pub without a Guinness. And it is fresh, but I honestly, I don't have enough of a discerning palate to detect a fresh Guinness from one that's over here. So it tasted roughly the same to me, but very delicious. I do like Guinness. But let me say
Is it
that
cold?
Ireland, what's that? Cold?
Is it cold?
Yeah,
Cold
In
beer?
Europe, they serve warm beer, but it's cold in
I don't
Ireland.
know. I do want to find out why. That's a question for the ages. Why they started chilling Guinness? They started chilling it here, and they chill it in Ireland as well. So I don't know why they've made that change. It used to be warm.
Oh, yeah, I know.
But
when I went to Italy, they had warm beer.
yeah, yeah,
You
and
get
it's good. It's good warm. It's good cold, or chilled a little bit. But there are many. It's so much more than Guinness right now. There are many microbrews that you can either visit, or just that you can get in the bars that are on tap. They have a lot of ciders that they use local
That'd be
apples
good.
or
How
other
about
fruit.
cheeses? Is it
Cheese,
cheap?
yes, they have excellent cheese. Yes,
Yeah, I would think
yes.
they would.
I don't think of them with cheese for some
Oh,
reason.
I do. They have a lot of farm animals, and they probably fresh
Yeah,
cheese.
a lot of sheep cheese in particular.
Yeah, sheep. Okay.
Sheep milk. And whiskey, if I'm not a whiskey drinker at all, but you would have choice anxiety. There are so many different types of whiskey there. A lot of bars have the bottles on, kind of lined up on tap, if you will. But yeah, I enjoyed a lot of different microbrews in addition to the Guinness. But the pubs, let me talk about the pubs for a bit, because the pubs are just way more than going and enjoying a pint. Pubs in Ireland are real, true gathering places. Everyone's your friend, whether you've met them, 30 seconds ago or 30 years ago. They're
nice.
they're like it's the closest thing to like the 80s sitcom Cheers. That's that we grew up on, or some of us of a certain age grew up on that, and so it seemed like every pub was kind of like that camaraderie. And what really makes Irish pubs different in Ireland than the rest of the world is that they have these traditional music performances called sessions, and they're a little bit spontaneous gatherings of musicians. and they're a little bit open mic, and they're a little bit organized. So they're kind of a combination of what you might find at bars in the U.S. But the thing is, they gather anywhere from 4 to 14 musicians, and they'll have their fiddles and their flutes and their pipes and maybe a bodrum drum or two, and maybe even
How
an
about a harp?
accordion.
Do they have a harp?
Yeah, a harp. I think there might have been at least one harp. Yep, you're right.
harp? Really?
There was at least one harp.
Well,
And
that's
even spoons. Like if you don't have any instrument, you can just grab some spoons from the bar and start playing spoons.
that's cool.
But it's so they'll gather and they'll do traditional Irish music. Sometimes people will sing a traditional song from their own country if they're not from Ireland. So we heard Ukrainian songs and Romanian songs and others. Sometimes you'll have a lad who stands up and he'll tell elaborate sea shanty type jokes or historical stories, and it's just like a little of everything that you can think of. It's just really
very
nice.
entertaining.
Yeah. You can usually find one in every night of the week in most of these larger towns.
That sounds pretty good.
That sounds fun.
You told us about the food, but personally, I'm a meat and potato guy, and that's what I stereotype Ireland as being. But I'm sure it's a lot more than just that. Could you share more about the food with us?
Yeah. So we tend to eat vegetarian. We gravitate towards vegetarian choices. So our culinary choices might not be for everyone, particularly if you're a meat and potato guy. But we found terrific Indian restaurants, Asian restaurants in every town. But even the pubs themselves had great menus and good food. They weren't just about the beer. They had traditional Irish dishes that had meat, like shepherd's pie or fish and chips. But there almost always were a couple of very creative vegetarian choices on the menu. So it was kind of interesting to go hunting around the towns and look at because they all put their menus out. So just as you're walking around to kind of check out what's this one have for vegetarian foods, and it was nice because you could always find something, and it wasn't just a pasta dish without the meat. It was something that was actually created around vegetarian food. So they definitely catered to traditional foods in the pubs, but had some very good vegetarian options as well. I think my favorite meal in Ireland was on the last night in the in Kilkenny, a restaurant called the Petronella restaurant. I had a really nice lentil nut loaf, which was like a meatloaf, but made with lentils. So it's pretty wild.
So there's no meat in it at all. It's lentil beans, basically.
Yeah, that particular dish. Yeah, lentils.
Was there a sauce? Do they put like a
yeah, there was
a
mushroom sauce on it. It was
that does sound good. Yeah, I would like that.
Very interesting. It was like the consistency of a meatloaf.
It did. Yeah, it tasted somewhat like a meatloaf, except it wasn't greasy. It was lighter.
Okay, I got another question for Maury. What surprised you the most with the country, or what was the most different feature between the U.S. and Ireland?
Oh, it's like comparisons with other countries.
Yeah, that's an interesting question because Ireland was never on my top 10 list of places to go visit because I didn't really think it would be very exotic or very different from the U.S. Speaks the same language. A lot of Irish people have brought their culture here, so I always felt like we knew what Ireland would be like, and in some ways it is very similar, but there are some interesting differences as well. I think just from a cultural standpoint, their history of independence is much more recent than ours, and it's affected a lot of people on a very personal level who've had fathers or grandfathers who lost lives in their plight. So that was interesting. There were constant reminders of that, where you don't see that as much in the U.S. unless you're in colonial towns, and they're also very focused on their traditions. They want to make sure keep their traditions alive, whether it's music or politics or food. But at the same time, they're also a very multicultural and cosmopolitan place, especially in the cities. So they embrace these modernizations as well. So it's a very interesting kind of hybrid. And then, kind of as far as the way it's built out too, one thing I really appreciate about Ireland is that the cities they don't have the sprawl that we have here. So you were in a city, you could walk outside of a city and be in a pasture with some farm animals. There's not that gradation of miles and miles of housing before you get to the countryside. So that was really nice to be able to see that beauty as well. So highly recommend. Very, very nice country to visit. Had a lot of fun.
Do you have a question?
I just had a question about food again. Did you have any unusual type of fish that you would recommend, or?
I did have the fish and chips, and I don't know what the fish was. They'd had a couple of, I think it was just basic white fishes that they were using, and I don't know what exactly, if it was different from what we'd see on this side of the Atlantic, or if it was the same.
Yeah. Okay. I was just wondering.
It's a good question. I don't know how much the species vary over there.
Yeah.
Now, Maura, you have taken many, many trips. You don't have to go through each one, but where would you rank Ireland from the top to the bottom? Would you put in the middle, down towards the bottom, down towards the top, on a place to visit?
Gosh, it's hard to rank. I have some favorites in the world, but I think I would say it's a great destination. It's very convenient to get to. There are more exotic places to go, Southeast Asia or further, Oceania or something, but those are very difficult and long to get to from Eastern US. So I think it should be on high on people's list, just because there's no reason not to go there. It's quicker to get to Ireland than to California, and it really opens you up to Europe. It's a nice gateway to Europe. I think that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
So you can experience European cafes. You can experience European sort of lifestyle in a pretty close distance, and it's a good launching off point too. I would recommend it as a kind of a way to launch into Scotland or Scandinavian countries or something. It'd be a good stopover.
Well, that sounds good. Now, Maura, we've kept you long enough. We appreciate you coming on through all the technical problems and the rain coming our way, which was going to probably shut down the internet anytime. So thank you very much for joining us, Maura.
We appreciate that. It was very
interesting. And we hope to talk to you about another one of your trips down the road.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and have a great day.
During each of our podcasts, Nancy likes to do a little research on some place related to travel and give you some fun facts. So you have some fun facts for us today, and it's on Miami
fun facts, which we just recently traveled to Miami.
That's great.
So this is interesting to me. The largest collection of art decor architecture in the U.S. is in Miami.
Oh, the largest art deco.
Yeah.
Okay.
Miami has the largest cruise ship port in the world. I thought it was lovely, the cruise port there, didn't you?
Sailing out of it,
yeah. Sailing
don't
out
like
of
getting
Miami.
to it, but sailing out of it.
No, don't like getting to it, but sailing out of it was lovely. And it was nice to see South Beach, was it? Yeah, that was awesome. The first Burger King opened in Miami in 1954.
See, now, I like Burger King.
And it was before we were born.
I know. and I like that better than McDonald's. A lot of people's favorite is McDonald's.
Yeah. I think Burger King has better fries. Anyways, Miami has the largest concentration of international banks in the U.S.
That probably makes sense. I wouldn't think that. I think New York or something like that, but okay.
Miami is the only city in the USA between two national parks. I think one would be the Everglades, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the other one is.
Park.
Yeah.
The population of Miami is 70% Hispanic.
Okay.
That makes sense. The Port of Miami currently has 9 cruise terminals, and 2 terminals are being added. Wow. Miami used to be a swampland. It only started to become developed in the 1920s. Miami Beach used to be a coconut grove plantation before it was transformed into what it is today. That would be interesting to see before and after pictures.
They had pictures of it.
Yeah. Miami is the #1 city in Florida for hurricanes. I didn't know that.
It makes sense. So it's south and it's facing the Atlantic Ocean, right?
Oh, yeah,
so
that makes sense.
I guess it would make sense. And coming up from the Caribbean.
Yeah. Miami was once a popular pirate hangout. Pirates such as Gasparilla and Blackbeard were regular visitors to Miami in the 18th and early 19th centuries. West African pirate Black Caesar was known to operate off the coast of Florida during the 18th century.
Never think of that as a pirate area.
I don't either, yeah.
But thanks for those fun facts
You're
and answers.
welcome.
Always interesting as usual.
They are.
During every podcast, we try and give you a small snowbird hint that we've learned on our couple years of snowbirding so far down in Florida. Today's snowbird hint will be a little bit on the difference in driving between up north here in New Hampshire and down south in Florida. And Nancy would like to give you a little bit of a tip.
Snowbird driving tip. If you spent a lot of time on the roads in Florida, you will notice two big features. Up north, we have to drive many miles if we want to reverse direction. In Florida, the roadways have a great system of U-turns, which makes reversing direction much easier once you get used to them. The biggest negative is the traffic lights. A 3 to 4 mile drive can take 20 to 30 minutes. There are continuous lights that are very long in duration. I would love to meet the person responsible for setting up the analytics for the traffic lights. Leave plenty of time when you are going somewhere.
Our second segment is an edited version of one of our lives. We took out the segment. It was a Hallmark cruise that we thought would be interesting to people out there. If you're interested in taking one of those Hallmark Christmas cruises. How many people out there are Hallmark movie fans, number one?
I'm raising my hand.
And how many of those Hallmark fans can watch the Hallmark Christmas movies even now?
Guilty.
You just watched one last night, right?
I know.
It was
I
the night
love 'em.
before?
Yeah.
Well, and tell me, this is an ingenious way to sell the cruise. So Hallmark has put together the first ever Christmas cruise with holiday music stars on board.
Oh, right.
Let's see. All right. Now, what this is
that's getting a target audience.
You certainly are, and you know they'll fill that up.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, the date of this cruise, so guys, you can mark it on your calendar if you're Hallmark fans, is November 5th through 9th, 2024.
Really?
It's leaving from the port of Miami and going to the Bahamas.
What a beautiful port that is. Oh, such a gorgeous port.
The ship you're sailing on, and we've been on the ship, is the NCL Gem.
Love the Gem.
Which it will be completely turned into a winter wonderland by Hallmark.
Oh my gosh, that sounds right up my alley.
And the size of it, if you haven't been in, it's 94,000 tons. Yeah. So it's a smaller one. I don't call it small, but it's smaller. And it's actually one of our favorite ships.
It is. It's beautiful. I like the Gem and the Escape very much so, the way it's decorated.
The Hallmark fans, is Hallmark and Lifetime owned by the same one? Network has announced its first ever Christmas-themed cruise, which will allow the network's many devoted fans to experience the magical world of its beloved holiday movies in real life. Now, these are some of the things you can do on board, okay? First of all, there's going to be, which I wouldn't know one from the other, but you probably have them all memorized, is the actors and actresses who are in these Christmas movies.
I do know them, yes.
It seems like you see the same ones in every movie. A big group of them is going to be on the ship.
That's so cool.
Okay, but they don't know which ones because some of them will be making the Christmas movies at that point, so they're not sure which ones.
Oh, that's really cool. That's a great idea. What?
He hit the nail on the head, Blaine. Okay, so everyone starts out the cruise. It's a little rough, okay?
Yeah.
By the time it gets back home, everyone is starting to get along, and everyone is happy after. So it's kind of like starts off as let's call it a Royal Caribbean cruise. In the middle of it's kind of like a Carnival cruise. Everyone's battling it out, and it ends as a Norwegian Hallmark cruise. I like that. I like that building.
I do too. Oh, that's great.
That's a movie in itself.
I was just thinking of that. You just got it right in my mind. I'm like, man, that would make a good movie.
So some of the things passengers can partake in.
Funny.
Christmas cookie decorating.
I know. I do think a lot of the Hallmark movies has the Christmas cookies because I was going to mention that
always
earlier.
in the kitchen,
I'm
right?
like, I always want to have a cookie when I'm eating those
So they'll probably have one of the stars leading the band.
I said I always want to have a Christmas cookie when I'm watching the movie.
Okay. Or popcorn, right? Ugly sweater contest.
Oh, You know, my ugly sweater was so ugly, I had to get rid of it. It's true. It is so true.
I don't think you ever can be too ugly for,
I thought
for
this
these
was.
contests. Then they're going to have a Hallmark Channel wine tasting.
Ooh.
They're going to have a Christmas karaoke.
Karaoke. Okay.
So they call it karaoke.
Well, you know, in these Hallmark movies, someone is always kissing under the mistletoe. They should have that because, you know, they always have the mistletoe and it's like, oh, look what's up in front of, look what's up above your head, mistletoe. And then they end up kissing. They should have that.
Send in your mistletoe idea.
I like
do that.
my mistletoe. Well, you know, that is a classic Hallmark Christmas.
Then the highlight for you true fans is your opportunity to meet your favorite actors and actresses from the Hallmark holiday movies. A not yet announced roster of holiday movie regulars will be on board for photo ops and behind the scene panels.
If I would love to kiss my favorite male actor under the mistletoe. What if you have that?
Whatever, you can send in any suggestions you want. Exclusive opportunity to attend the premiere of a new Hallmark Channel countdown to Christmas movie on board.
Oh.
So it sounds like they're going to have a new one in the queue for that, and maybe the people on the ship are the first ones that get to see this movie. Blaine says he thinks the captain will be under the mistletoe. With the captain being Santa. Ooh, nice little. So you really don't know if it's captain. People are always trying to immerse themselves in the world of Hallmark Channel Christmas movies, and this venture is sure to bring that brand to life. The cruise will kick off with a special Light the Night event where cruisers can watch a tree lighting ceremony to get them ready for the festive journey ahead. Fans can sign up for the cruise pre-sale until today. So I think today is the last day to do the pre-sale price. So you'd have to jump on the phone as soon as we hang up on you all.
You know, I'm going to be thinking about that Hallmark cruise all day now. You know that? Because that just so
you only have till midnight, I guess, to book it with its pre-cruise.
But thinking about that.
But after which they'll be receiving bookings for a chance to reserve a cabin. Bookings officially open to the general public on July 21st at 2 p.m. So July 21st will be the last time to book this cruise.
I am really intrigued by that Hallmark cruise. I really would like to go.
Well, we'll see out of Miami in November. The date's a problem for us, but they should do a movie like this on a cruise, kind of like The Love Boat. It would do very well. So maybe we'll cruise. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, right, yeah.
I mean, I still find myself watching the old corny Love Boat episodes just because it gives me that connection with cruising.
I like The Love Boat too.
I'm surprised that they haven't come back. I know they did have a remake of The Love Boat.
They did, yeah.
And called A New Wave or something, but that's years old. Surprised that they haven't some group hasn't come forward with another. More current version. You know, everyone has cell phones and fights on deck and all that kind of stuff. So that ends today's show. All right, Nancy, it's that time of the podcast when you give the answer to your trivia questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what is the most spoken language in the world? Any guesses?
I'd say Spanish, probably.
Yeah, I would say Spanish as well, but it's Mandarin Chinese.
Never would have guessed that one.
I wouldn't have guessed that, of course. How much land does Disney World comprise? Walt Disney World Resort encompasses roughly 50 square miles, and Walt Disney originally purchased the land for a mere $5 million.
See, I always remember the comparison when they say Disney World's the size of Manhattan Island, New York.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They always tell you that, yeah.
It's extremely impressive.
Yes.
And the answer to your third question?
Outside of the U.S., what is the busiest cruise port by passenger numbers?
Let's see. Outside the U.S., I don't know.
Cozumel.
That makes sense, though. They have all those piers.
Mm-hmm. And that's a lovely cruise port, I think. I think that and Costa Maya.
Well, because you're right near the downtown. You can walk around. That's what we've done several times in Cozumel. Okay, thank you for that, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Nancy, we've been getting in our email questions and stuff on us and our travels. And I thought maybe it'd be interesting at the end of each podcast, we answer a question. So this is one of our questions that we received. We'll answer one per podcast. And the question we're answering today is, what is your favorite and least favorite cruise line? So
Okay.
start with you, and what's your least favorite cruise line?
I'd have to say Carnival was my least favorite, even though I really enjoyed the Carnival cruise. What I didn't like about it was, I think the quality of food is a little below other cruise lines, and the fact that they didn't have late night restaurants open like other cruise lines did.
I had Carnival as my last one also, and you touched on the quality definitely isn't the same food-wise. The entertainment, I enjoyed it, but it's not any kind of Broadway type of entertainment. And that's what bothered me a lot too, is the availability of the food.
Yeah, the availability.
It was terrible after they had one place open, a pizza place, late, and the line was literally to the back of the ship because it's the only place people could eat. So people have been drinking in clubs, they've been going to shows, they come out for a bite to eat, and they got to wait in this line.
I know, and they could fix that. I mean, so easily.
It was terrible.
Fix, yeah.
So I did the same thing. What was your favorite cruise
Oh,
line?
Royal Caribbean. It's a beautiful, beautiful ship. I love the Central Park. I love the shows. I love the food. So
you're basing it all on one ship.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
But if you're doing the overall cruise line, I had, RCL and NCL close. I mean, Disney is my favorite, but we went on Disney so long ago.
Yeah.
So it's not a fair comparison.
Right.
I think NCL and Royal Caribbean both have very good food.
I agree.
They have excellent entertainment.
I agree.
Broadway type of shows.
They did, yeah.
I would pick those two way above Carnival, even though we'll sell Carnival.
Yeah, we'll
it's
sell
nice
Carnival.
enough. A cruise is a cruise, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are our picks. Be interested to see what others think. Send us a message.
Yeah, let us know.
And let us know what your favorite ones are. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for coming to J&N Travels Podcast with your hosts, John and Nancy.